So what you are learning here is not everything. You have learnt only how to learn. So you are going into the University of Life now, it will be lifelong. As Mr. Kovichelvan said, you will continue to learn. There is no end to it. It's only a journey, it's not a perfection. You have learned how to learn and you will continue to learn every day when you leave the colleges also. So, John Ruskin, the great man, says, education does not mean teaching people to know what they do not know. It means teaching them to behave as they should behave in life also. Otherwise, we create educated monsters. The best schools are in America, the richest country. See the children going around and killing each other even in schools. And unfortunately, this is happening in this country also. So you must, the art of living, the art and science of living has to be learned that only. That's why this institution gives you all opportunities for physical health. Physical health is important. Again, WHO preamble said it's not just absence of disease. It is the health of the body, mind, and spirit and emotional health is also very important. Now we added spiritual health also. You are given art of living, meditation classes are there. Emotional health is important, otherwise what happens, you see so many cases of highly educated people, highly placed people, killing themselves and killing the wife and children, apart from killing all the others also. Because the emotional health is not there, what is the use of the knowledge and the degrees and the job you may get? You have seen a very high functionary of one of the leading corporates in Singapore, he jumps down from the hotel and commits suicide. A top ranking executive. Because the emotional health is not taught. Physical health is very important because without that you can achieve nothing. Mental health is important because of stability, how to relate to people. Emotional health is important because how to deal with situations. Everything in life will not happen as we want. In our own family, between the husband, wife, children and all that, we have no control on anybody because they will behave the way they behave. But at least you should have control on how to react to those situations. So that's why emotional health is. This is a wholesome education is given in this campus. Everything is there. So the principal goal of education is to create men and women who are capable of doing new things, not simply of repeating what other generations have done. That's why he was telling, Mr. Kovichelvan was telling, we must also do some fundamental work, not simply the lighter work, creating, making it light for the Westerners to do it. Now scientists investigate that which is already there. The greatness of engineers, they say, what do the scientists do? They investigate that which already is there, why it's happening, why it's not happening, what will happen. But the engineers who create that which has never been. Whatever you do is something new, whether it's a building or a factory or engine, whatever it is. I am quoting it from the greatest scientist of the last century, Albert Einstein. It was he who said, Nobel laureate, scientists investigate that which already is, whereas the engineers only who can create which has never been, new things you create every day. And scientists dream about doing great things, but at least the engineers who do them actually. A scientist studies what is, the engineer studies what never was, something new. Engineering is a great profession. I congratulate you for choosing this field. There is the satisfaction of watching a figment of the imagination emerge through the aid of science to a plain paper. Then it moves to realization in stone or metal or energy. Then it brings home to men and women. Then it elevates the standard of living, contributing, and adds to the comfort of life. This is the engineer's highest privilege. Nobody, no other profession can do it. If you're enjoying, if I can speak, whatever it is, you are able to hear all that. If you are sitting in this and light, everything is marvels created by the profession called engineers. It's not merely knowing and being knowledgeable. You are like a walking encyclopedia. It's not merely an analysis. It is not merely the possession of the capacity to get elegant solutions to non-existent engineering problems. Engineering is practicing the art of the organized forcing of technological change. So the engineers operate at the interface between science and society. what is in science, they bring it to be used by the society, enhancing the quality of life of every one of us. That is what is happening. So the engineer is the key figure in the material progress of the world. It is his engineering that makes the reality of the potential value of science by translating scientific knowledge into tools, resources, machinery, and buildings. An effective engineering education should culminate in providing enthusiastic, employable, efficient, skilled, committed, hardworking, honest, humane, patriotic graduates. And I believe that is what is happening in this great institution. So the role of the faculty is very, very important in this. While all teachers teach, good teachers not only teach, they also inspire and motivate. They encourage the students to believe in themselves. They teach not only the latest in science and technology, but also in effective communications. You can quote NASCOM, N.R. Narayan Murthy, and CII conferences everywhere to say hardly 10 to 20% of the graduates coming out of the engineering colleges are employable. That's why, as Mr. Kovichelvan said, and if you go to Infosys campus in Mysore, they've got, I think, about thousands of students are there, graduates employed, but they're preparing them to be employable. They got a degree on hand, but Ms. Narayan Murthy said hardly 20% are employable. So they have to go 6 months or 1 year. They've got a course running there all the time. So that's why the standard of education has to improve. And I'm happy that in the last few years I can see the tremendous improvement because of the chairman himself takes personal interest in ensuring the better qualified, more experienced people are taken into the faculty. So, but also the art and science of living. They mold the character and the personality to lead life as a whole. New professions are born. So many new professions are born. The old ones are disappearing in the IT and BT world. But the age-old profession of teaching will only emerge stronger. So in future, there are two kinds of skills are important. It's already happening here. One is technological skills, engineering, what you've done in the laboratories, the classrooms, and all that. And the other is the human resources. That is human skills, how to deal with people, how to manage your own stress factor, how to deal with others, how to deal with the world and all that. So technical skill and human skills are both important to be a successful employee or employer or entrepreneur, whatever you may do it. So that's why the great scholar Henry Adams said, a teacher affects eternity, not only now. You will see after 20 years, 30 years, Mr. Kovichelvan is remembering Dr. Subbayan even now after 30 years of 35 years, because after we are our Mata, Pita, Guru Devam, we are created by our own parents. God, yes, we concept we don't know, but we know our parents are the people who create us. Mother gives her milk and brings up. Then the third position is given to the Guru. The Guru should deserve that honor. The student also should have that attitude of devotion to the teacher, and that's how the good students are born also. So employability requires knowledge, skills, right attitude, as he rightly said, aptitude, attitude, besides physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual education. I just want to, these things, same words, if it comes from the successful people, it has more meaning. So allow me to just repeat a few quotations for you. Rockefeller, everyone who doesn't know Rockefeller, he said, the secret of success is to do the common thing uncommonly well. One way to be successful leader is to do something really well, better than anyone else, to do it uncommonly well, as Dr. Balasubramaniam has been creating this institution. Everybody, hundreds of colleges have come, but can you think of any other colleges, all that the chairman wanting to invest and improve the standard of imparting education. So what defines successful leaders today is they often use common sense. What is the difference between an ordinary entrepreneur and a successful entrepreneur, a real leader? What is the difference between a manager and a leader? The leader uses common sense, but they see the sense before it becomes common. That is what can give companies and their managers the competitive edge, as TVS is doing where Kovai Chelvan has been working. The insights and methods of the gurus can make a big difference in the way we manage our organizations. Successful leaders have the ability to see things before others do. What is being done here at Bannariamman will happen in some other universities also, maybe after 5 years, 10 years. But the successful leaders have the ability to see things before others do, to find the sense before it becomes common. What contributes to the making of a successful leader? There are 3 points. Rely on common sense. Do the common things uncommonly well and find the sense before it becomes common. Now, of course, one aspect of thing is corruption, unfortunately, what is happening. We have only 70% of the world's population, but we account for less than 2% of global GDP and 1% of world trade. It's a matter of great regret and shame. For that, of course, I advocate, apart from lack of governance or misgovernance at all levels, corruption. In Transparency International, India is shown as one of the most corrupt nations at all levels. The index kept India's position unchanged at 94 among 177 countries, which meant it is in the bottom half of the list of countries suffering from lack of transparency and corruption. The survey said India's low rank could be attributed to a series of scams involving government officials, politicians, and even corporates also. Another sign about which we should get worried is about where do we stand in the Human Development Index. The latest report of the United Nations Development Programme says we are a low 136 among 186 countries on its Human Development Index, a composite measure of life expectancy, education, health, income levels, etc. Now, you can only help a person to discover it in himself, because you are not going to create anything. You can only help him to discover the ability in himself. We should look for opportunities in difficult situations. Nothing is impossible. What is considered impossible takes a little longer, more effort, enormous. This is what I wrote in my book on Rajiv Gandhi assassination. When I went to take up the investigation, all the officers in the CBI said, "Sir, why do you take it up? It's a blind case. Only one head, 2 legs, and 1 arm. No intelligence agency could tell." I told them, I wrote down something, I put it on the desk behind me so that they don't demotivate me. When the book was released, Dr. Abdul Kalam was the president. He said, "I like that passage. That is, nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. What appears to be difficult is we have to work a little harder, with more determination, accept failures, but ultimately the will to succeed, and everything is made possible also." We have seen people like Helen Keller. She had all the difficulties, all the handicaps, but she proved an inspiration. And our own Stephen Hawking, the modern scientist, is called part machine, part human. Nothing works for him, but he is considered one of the greatest scientists. If he can do that, why can't we, given by the Creator with all faculties intact, strive for that? So, where you see obstacles, you must treat them as stepping stones, and you can succeed it. That's how great achievers have done. Our aspirations or create our possibilities. William Shakespeare says, only 3 simple methods of success. That is, know more than the other, work more than the other, expect less than the other. Then you will never be disappointed. You will be contented man. And Chairman quoted Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison says, he went on trying for so long, nothing succeeded. He said, "I will not say I failed 1,000 times. I will say that I discovered there are 1,000 ways that can cause failure." And then 1,001st, he succeeded. Same thing with a stone, marble or granite stone. A sculptor starts, working on it. He keeps on hitting it, maybe for days together. But the last hit, a beautiful statue emerges. If he says, "I wasted my 1,000 hits," it's stupidity. So like that, keep on making efforts. We will certainly succeed. And don't stop